tea right there, man.
So,
Okay, good.
well, I couldn't pick that dude out of a crowd of two, so it doesn't matter.
There, I just texted you a direct link to our broadcast.
Okay. All right, so how do I take this? I just do the severe weather coverage on YouTube, copy,
Yeah.
and then I'm going to edit the post. Save. All right, let's put the radar range. Radar range.
What's your Twitter handle?
I've got to get a new one. We're changing everything with our show.
Oh, okay.
Got to get a new one is my Twitter handle. All right, let's call Michael, see what the weather's like. You goddamn phone. Yes, sir.
This. Bing bong. Is that David Latona's actual Twitter, or is that a different David Latona? Corona Del Mar, 16 followers, last tweeted in 20. No.
So that's a good deal.
No.
And as I get,
Nah,
I may,
bro.
I may pick your brain on a couple of things a little bit later, but thanks, buddy. Appreciate it so much. All right, brother. Chuck, you know when I'm on this side of this little partition right here, in ICU, there's a sense of comfort.
Good. I'm glad I could provide that.
I mean, you're just very, very calm. Your calming approach. You bring out the best in everybody, Chuck. I got to tell you.
I'm trying to exude calmness.
I got to tell you, you bring out the best in everybody.
Good afternoon. Welcome aboard. Brian Haldane with you alongside Kevin Ford. Chuck P. producing. Let's do a little storm coverage, shall we? It's weird when the storm doesn't have a name, and yet we're in here, and yet we are in here. He's Kevin Ford. Brian Haldane with you. So here's how this is going to work out. We're going to be with you for about an hour, just to kind of set the table of what's to come later on today. Then we're going to rejoin our regularly scheduled programming and then pick back up at 3 p.m. Why? Well, we want to make sure everybody's on the right page here. Most folks are getting out of work or school right now. The state office is shutting down throughout a number of parishes in Louisiana. Number of offices already shut down. Schools, if you weren't virtual or off today, you are getting out by at the very latest right now. So it's likely you're on your drive home. So welcome to Afternoon Drive. Kevin, what's happening, dude?
Well, everybody's kind of waiting for this weather situation to come in. And I think, Brian, the biggest thing that, first of all, it's supposed to be here somewhere around 3 o'clock this afternoon.
Correct.
And we've had all of these closures and everything. And And that's a caution thing. And I think what people need to realize about this more than anything, and the Weather Service and everybody has been saying this, when this thing comes through, it's not going to be like Ida and have a wide path of destruction. You're going to have very small pockets throughout our area that are likely to have a potential F1, F2 tornado, which is possible, but more importantly, straight line winds. Right now, winds are 28 miles an hour out to south. You can get those winds, and a burst of winds can knock down your fence, and then every other fence in their neighborhood is going to be fine. So I think people should, when they see all of these closings and they see everything, there's expectations that everybody's going to be really seriously affected by this. That's not the case. It's going to be just in some areas. It's going to be isolated, and then that's what we think. That's the good news. The bad news is those that get it, it's going to be pretty bad. So potentially it's going to be pretty bad. You just never know with these things. I know yesterday, one of the concerns that the Weather Service has is the warm weather. The dew point last night at 10 o'clock was 74.
Yep.
And that means how warm everything is. So this thing is kind of ripe to have some thunderstorms with circulation in them, but there's no one that out there that can predict exactly where those dangerous storms are going to be. And when you look at what happens here in South Louisiana, it's not like Alabama and other areas where you can have a tornado like the one in Tuscaloosa that lasted all the way to Birmingham.
Right.
These come up, they come down. We don't get a lot of that here. So everybody needs to be vigilant. Everybody is a potential target, but very few people are likely going to have a serious impact from this. But since we don't know where it is, everybody's got to take it seriously. And once the closing started, everybody else had to close because you have lawsuit potentials and things like that. So once the ball started rolling with the closings, that's why you're seeing that.
Well, if you don't know if you're going to have the tornadic activity on Bluebonnet at Perkins or airline at Prescott, you don't know where individual things are going to land. Everyone has to take the exact same precautions. And honestly, Kevin, you and I could just repeat those 4 sentences over and over again for the entire hour. And once this day is over with, someone's going to be pissed that they didn't get hit.
Yes. I mean, for those of you out there that are looking to have your house blown down, or trees blown down, or your dog, was that didn't the dog get blown away and Gone with the Wind or something? No, not Gone with the Wind.
Wizard of Oz.
Wizard of Oz, yeah. So if your damn
Close.
dog doesn't...
The fire in Gone with the Wind.
Yeah, so, okay. So, frankly, Scarlett, that's...
Frankly, my dear.
I don't give a... Okay. All right, but yeah, so for the people that are expecting their house to get blown down and the fence to go down and then to blame it on the weather people, we've told you exactly what to expect. They've actually told you exactly what to expect this time, and that's what you should do. If you're watching local like WBRZ, I might as well throw this in. If you're watching the Weather Channel, then you are foolish. Because that's for entertainment purposes only. I will tell you in storm coverage that we always do food reviews, and I must say these Circle K sea salt roasted cashews are highly overrated because I don't taste any sea salt.
Okay. Yes, we always there will be a snack review, full-on review at the end. But obviously the inklings here aren't good for the sea salt cashews from Circle K.
The first 3 nuts were not very impressive. Hopefully since I have an office up here and I do a lot of things.
Normally it's that third nut that's impressive.
Yes, I just wanted to make sure that the Circle K sea salt roasted cashews are not the title sponsor of Guarantee Media. If so, you can catch me at the Sonic across the street. I'll be wearing...
Also not a sponsor, but okay.
I'll be the one in the skates falling down delivering your food.
Yeah.
But, so this is something you need to take seriously. This is something that you could have, you kind of want to take in a way your hurricane preparedness when it comes to winds.
Yeah.
Because stuff can get blown around. Don't tape the windows. Don't do anything like that. But if there are things that are easily blown around in your backyard and your front yard, you might want to put those in the garage, put those inside. People do need to do that with the way the wind is. And this is going to be relatively quick, 2 hours or so from start to finish. And the best thing we can do is hope that the line is, as further south you go, the thinner the line gets. So that's...
Okay, these are things we're going to talk about as the hour wears on, because I think that's an important one. A couple of things we've been seeing with this particular storm, it's moving slower from west to east than originally anticipated, which is why originally when we said noon, or the reason everybody had noon as their closing time, was because you wanted to get home before this hit, thinking it would be a smaller window. Now it's looking like school probably could have gone till the end of school.
But you have to get what you want to do is get what you don't want is people scrambling to get home.
1,000%.
You know
yes.
when it happens. And look, you've got to take. You've got once somebody announces a closing for legal purposes, everybody else is going to kind of fall in suit with that. So I mean, honestly, with this thing the way it is, I think that anybody in the path of this thing, a closing, especially in Baton Rouge at 12 o'clock for schools and everything, that makes sense to me. I don't think,
No, it does.
but people need to realize when the whole damn town is not destroyed, this was not blown out of proportion. If you listen to what they say, this is exactly what we're talking about now is exactly what they're expecting. And when we get back on the air later this afternoon, that's probably exactly what we're going to see. So let's just hope let's hope it doesn't get really, really bad and worse than what they're saying, which means if it's worse than what they're saying, it means there's going to be more areas that are going to be impacted by this front coming through.
The other reason I bring up the delays is that the natural thought process would be the longer this takes to get here, the more we're going to get soaked by rain. It actually doesn't look like it's going to play out that way because the longer it takes for it to get here, the further to the bottom of this squall line we are, which is the thinner the line is
Right.
as well. So as the afternoon wears on, our situation will improve.
Right. I'm sorry.
No.
But the other thing that's real big, and you kind of mentioned that as far as that, widespread flooding is not going to be an issue in this. They're talking about
Correct.
1 to 2 inches of rain. Now, what could happen is you're going to get some areas of rain where the rate is well over an inch or 2 to 3 inches per hour.
Mm-hmm.
So if those areas, if that rain gets in those areas that are prone to flooding, you're going to see flooding in those areas, not because of a dramatic amount of rain, but because of the rate the rain falls.
A very quick amount of rain. Yes, and we were talking with Dr. Josh Eachus earlier today. He'll be on after the bottom of the hour, somewhere around 12:40 or so. We're talking with him earlier. We've been in a drought. Like, prolonged rain is not a problem today. Even if we got prolonged rain, which we're not expected to get, but even if we got it, the ground is thirsty, and the river levels are low. So that wouldn't be a problem on a normal day, and it's already, behind the 8 ball a little bit.
You know what really sucks? Some jackass is calling me from Colfax, Louisiana, about to tell me that my car insurance, my car warranty is about to expire. You get those calls?
All the time. All the time. Sometimes I answer them.
Oh, I answer them.
My daughter likes to bark at them.
Oh, no, I answer them all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you ought to hear some of the stuff I say.
Yeah.
Yes,
Well, not on air. Not on air.
You could probably mention it on air, but I'm not going to go there right now because it's during business hours and management could be listening.
Well,
so
before we take a break, I do want to make one quick clarification overall. I've already received word that a cashew is not a nut.
what the hell is it? It's a different breed of nut, probably.
Yeah, well, I was just told it's not a nut, so we'll look into that.
You know, there's 320 calories in this.
Cashews are fatty, dude.
I didn't realize that.
Oh yeah.
320.
Oh yeah.
You need to be eating almonds, Kevin.
Well, I do eat almonds, Chuck. So why don't you?
I'm just saying.
I mean, you didn't bring any snacks up here.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't know this was going to be a snack-oriented thing.
What are you, new?
Weather issues are always snack and food-oriented things. It does not matter. Normally, we don't have to bring our own food.
I am drinking a nice cold Dr. Pepper, if that counts for anything.
Well, you probably should drink a Diet Dr. Pepper. Those are loaded with sugar.
Wow, did you just call me fat? Like
No, I
that?
didn't
He
call
called
you
you fat. He kind of called you fat.
No, I didn't.
I'm drinking some high-quality H2O for what it's worth.
Smart man.
All right, we got to talk with David Latona from Demco in just a little bit. Why? Because, like we said, this is all about preparation right now. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. What is Demco up to be ready? We'll talk with David Latona next on Talk 107.3.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Why does your mic sound weird?
It sounds like a
hollow
Fisher
kinda.
Price, like a
Yeah.
echoey, like a kid's microphone.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like something is askew in it.
Yeah.
I still
Yeah,
think
look,
it's-
they're talking about the Supreme Court on WBRZ. If this were as bad as it was looking, this would be all Josh all the time. They haven't even gone to Josh yet.
Yeah. I mean, the way this
They're
is
going
looking.
to wait right now because what
Where
they're
it's-
trying to do, dude, is they're trying to, the more they do it, they all realize that this is going to be quick and the damage in the areas affected are going to be very hit and miss. So the more they do on TV, and the meteorologists are not going to be, they're going to be very cautious in what they say.
Yeah.
So yeah, that makes sense to me.
Well, and it brings up the whole idea of we are 2/3 of the way through March. You've got April, you've got May. Do you really start setting the groundwork now to have people stop paying attention before hurricane season?
They're going to stop paying attention anyway.
Well, of course they are, but you don't want to foster that. You don't want to feed it.
But this could be, you know.
Oh, shit. You saw that red on the back end right before it flipped? Was that north of us?
Yeah.
Okay.
But as this thing gets closer, I think you may see more develop with that line that's coming through. So.
Well, it's the skinny part at the bottom that I'm liking.
Yeah, so it's going to be, this is.
Look,
I mean, I would take this.
Out? It's like a reverse Florida.
Reverse Florida?
Yeah, the way it's
Zorro, Florida.
Yeah, the way it's shaped. I mean, it obviously goes all the way up to the rest of the world, but the shape. Right, never mind. Jesus.
Here, reverse Florida. What the hell are you talking about? All right, so let's look at this. What's a good timing? Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, wait.
It's got to be refreshed.
Do you need David's number, Chuck?
Yes.
Yeah, it probably would be a good idea since we're calling him.
Text that.
And you probably need to go over there and write it because if we're on something, somebody will call him.
I don't do that. You know what I do? I just
you
share the contact. What's amazing, though, is
what I normally
nobody saves the damn Charles Pierce.
That's such an official name.
Charles Pierce?
Yeah.
It's way more official
All right,
than
let's
Chuck
see where
P.
this thing's
All
going to
right,
be.
we're coming back.
All right. Twelve 18 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. This is a little bit of extended coverage due to the weather we're expecting later on today. He's Kevin Ford. I'm Brian Haldane. Chuck P. producing. We're going to be joined by David Latona from Demco in just a little bit. God, it's so weird to do this without a name for the storm. Normally when we're doing this... No, we're not naming the storm. That affects your insurance rate.
Oh, sorry. Never mind.
No, the storm will have no name. Which, by the way, is a good time to get out and get yourself a new roof after it's over with, right? Whatever happens today, whether your roof got damaged here or during a named storm, you want to blame it on the non-named storm because your deductible will be lower. So, going to talk... Do what?
I like that.
Yeah.
Good advice.
So, going to talk with David Latona from Demco in just a minute about what they're doing to prepare for something like this. How much can you actually prepare for a storm like this? And what's expected from a power outage standpoint, at least from Demco's perspective. So, as we get ready for what looks like it's going to be sometime after 3 o'clock this afternoon, we welcome in David Latona from Demco. David, welcome aboard, sir. How are you, man?
Hey, good afternoon, guys. How are you this evening?
We're doing good. It's so ironic. I talked to David about something else yesterday, and I'm like, this is real weird. We're not talking about weather. And then the next day, of course, we're sitting here talking about weather.
Happy to oblige.
Great.
So,
we messed up, didn't we?
Yeah, a little bit.
We should have not mentioned it.
Yeah, we should have. Yeah, we got it about 3 or 4 months too early. So, David, this is not a hurricane. This is something that's moving fast. We're expecting some straight line winds, possible F1, F2 tornadoes. Don't want to scare the hell out of anybody. What do y'all, in a situation like this, it's not a hurricane. What do y'all do to prepare for the potential of severe weather?
Sure. Well, our emergency response plan is just that. It's not a hurricane plan. It's not a flood plan. It's not even an ice plan. It's a plan for any number of emergencies, whether it be a pandemic or, that's, of course, addendums that everyone's added to their plan, right, or a hurricane. So in this case, we know just from our experience the damage that straight line winds and tornadoes, like what is predicted, can cause. So we prepare accordingly. That is more, we just call it acute damage. It's localized, but it can really devastate our infrastructure that we use to serve our members. So we are prepared to mobilize our crews because we feel in many cases that acute damage will not damage all of our districts, but it could damage a couple of them. So we have our other crews positioned to assist, bring in personnel from outside in order to attack the issues that are existing after the storm.
David, you talk about bringing in crews from outside. Is that a little more difficult when you have a storm that's this widespread? I mean, the top of the squall line goes all the way up to Memphis. Are y'all, for lack of a better term, are y'all in competition to bring crews in, or is there plenty to go around?
Actually, what we do is we have a statewide organization, the Association of Louisiana Electric Cooperatives, that we are a member of, and other electric co-ops in the state. We come together through that organization, and they work with other statewide organizations, like the Florida statewide or the Texas statewide organization, to request assistance. So what we'll do is be specific about what we need. We need this type of equipment. We need this many men and women. Give us what you can from the co-ops that you represent in your state. And so that is how we are organized, and we get that electric cooperative, that brotherhood and sisterhood. That's how we get that assistance here for those immediate needs.
Okay, with that, I would imagine if it's a cooperative, it is exactly cooperative, so calls would come in as soon as they'd go out, or as frequently as they'd go out. Have y'all got any calls from points further west in Louisiana as a result of damage done by this storm already?
Nothing yet on our co-op level, but I'm sure our statewide organization is working through those requests as they come in.
And David, I think the good news about this, and well, there's no good news about bad weather, but with what we're expecting here, we're not expecting all of Baton Rouge or all of certain areas to be out of power. This is going to be isolated areas, more than likely, that are out of power. So the manpower issue may not be that as significant as it would be in a hurricane, where you could be dealing with 70 to 80% of your members out. Something like this, it could be, for the people out of power, they could care less if it's 100%, but this is expected to be much lower. So probably more, you don't want bad weather to come through, but this is way more manageable, I would imagine, for y'all than a hurricane like Ida that came through that kept everybody busy for weeks and months.
Oh, yeah. That was, it's touted as the worst natural disaster to hit our service territory, as it went right up the gut. But this is definitely predicted to be something less. It doesn't change our amount of preparation. It's still every employee preparing for what could be to come. Now, what we do have is, like I said, those districts, for instance, if we have damage down in Lower Livingston Parish, that district will receive workers from our other districts just inside DEMCO. So we'll mobilize that equipment, say, from St. Francisville's area, and they'll go down and assist where needed to that Livingston district. So we do. That's our first, level of defense is our internal personnel.
And you talked about emergency response and what you guys do. You have it; it'll be triggered by a pandemic, hurricane, whatever. What actually, for something like this, what actually is the key? For people I'm kind of curious about it myself. What parameters are out there that trigger your emergency response effort and getting your teams of members, and not the members, but your workers and everything ready? What's the trigger mechanism for that?
Sure. It's, we watch the weather, honestly. So we know that these storms are predicted. They've been predicted for a couple of days now. So we know that there are preparations in place for positioning material, topping off fuel tanks, getting our folks in order and ready to respond as the need fits. So once again, that's coming after the storm. Once it passes and it is safe, we mobilize and assess that damage. So just like I mentioned, those districts, they're overseen by a district supervisor who is leading that assessment of those lines that he is familiar with, right? So they are going out, assessing that damage as the winds die down enough for it's safe to be out. We assess that damage, and then we assign the outside labor accordingly to those damages.
David Latona from DEMCO is our guest. Got a couple more minutes with David before we let you get back to those storm preps and whatnot. Actually, one good reminder that we always like to put out there, David, is the conditions with which you'll have to wait through before repairing someone's electricity. I know the moment the power goes out, the clock is already ticking towards frustration. But while straight winds or possible tornadoes are out there, you guys can't get up and get the fixing just yet. So What does it have to look like before y'all are allowed to get started?
Sure, we want those wind speeds to get down to 35 miles an hour or less. That's before we get up in a bucket. Now, we can get out on the road when wind speeds are a little bit higher than that with just a truck for the assessment phase. But also, we're certainly safety-minded. It is in our mission to provide safe, reliable, affordable power. That is first and foremost is to keep our crew members, but also the community and our membership safe. So that's that first area of concern. But we will certainly get out there as soon as it is deemed safe.
And the difference between this and a lot of other things, guys, is once this moves through, the weather is going to really get better rapidly. So this is not going to be a long event, and the people that do find themselves out of power, they're going to find that once this line moves through, it's very likely that they can get out there and fix things. So that's
sure.
good news.
Our folks are going to definitely be on it. I would definitely want to remind your listeners, if you have life-sustaining equipment that requires electricity, make plans now. Make plans now. Don't wait until you find out that you're going to be out for an extended period of time before you start scrambling to find a place to be that has emergency power that's necessary for your life safety. Same goes for elderly and even an infant in your home. Make plans to what you can do if there is the unfortunate case of an extended outage.
Very good point.
He is David Latona from Demco. We will let you get back to it as the afternoon wears on, and then if the need arises, and let's just hope it doesn't, but if the need arises, we'll get you back on a little bit later, okay?
Great. Thank you guys so much.
Appreciate
care.
it. Yep. He is David Latona from Demco.
And that was a big reminder to Chuck P. right there that his microwave could go out and his movie theater butter popcorn may not be able to get popped. So
you're just instantly, but you're instantly back into it. I mean, instantly.
Well,
he doesn't miss a step at all.
No, I know.
He's very fluid.
Just mid-season form. Hurricane season doesn't start till June 1.
He's ready, though.
Kevin doesn't need spring training.
No.
Well, there's a couple of things I want to know as well. Is this cold front vaccinated, and has it been wearing a mask? I'm just been curious about that.
The mask mandate has been lifted on the front.
Yeah.
From here all the way up to Memphis.
The people that I see, why do you wear a mask in a car by yourself? That's a whole different story. I was asking that when I passed up Chuck P. the other day when I saw him.
No, that's just the beard. It looks like a mask. It just looks like a mask.
Yeah, dude, how in the hell did you get a mask on your face with that beard? I mean, it looks good. I mean, I tell you, it makes you look like Grizzly
Adams. Less than effective. It's less than effective when it has to go through the beard.
Doesn't he have the look of Grizzly Adams?
A little bit.
I mean, without the cap, yeah.
Well, my head's sunburned, so I don't want to, blind anybody with my big red bulb.
And you know what Chuck's thinking right now? Who the hell is Grizzly Adams?
Yeah, well,
no, I do know who Grizzly Adams is.
That and why the hell did I volunteer for this?
Also that.
Really what
also
he's thinking.
that.
I mean, it's lunchtime. All right. Hey, well, it is lunchtime, but also technically it's afternoon drive right now. Nina says on our YouTube feed, hello, gentlemen, traffic is stupid. That's exactly why we're on right now, and we will talk about that as the afternoon wears on.
And if you have traffic reports right now, and you were out on the roads and you see something, let us know, because this is basically, like you said, this is rush hour. This is rush hour in Baton Rouge. Hell, it lasts at 10 o'clock now at night, but this is technically rush hour.
Yeah, this is with everybody getting out of school at noon, all the state offices and city offices closing at noon. With all that, we assume there would be an increased amount of people on the road right now. So here to get you home safely is what that is what we're here to do for the next roughly half hour. Coming up 60 seconds from right now, we are going to check in with CBS News to get the latest on a national level. We'll take a quick break after that news report. When we come back after that break, WBRZ's chief meteorologist, Dr. Josh Eachus, is set to join us. One last quick note on talking with David Latona from Demco. One of the main reasons why we wanted to get him on first is when you look at Demco's region, the Felicianas are in there. They're big in the Felicianas, St. Helena Parish, Upper Livingston Parish. It's looking more and more like this whole thing might go a little bit further north than us, which is kind of Demco's wheelhouse.
Yeah, but straight line winds, no matter where it's fat, no matter where it's thin, those straight line winds, boy, that's kind of a rhyme, can show up anywhere.
Yes, they absolutely can. All right, so day 2 of Supreme Court hearings, or Senate hearings on the Supreme Court.
Oh, boy.
Oh, yeah. CBS is going to bring us the latest from, speaking about a bunch of hot air blowing, here's the CBS News.
I'm really disappointed in these nuts. But I think a cashew must be a different breed of nut.
That's what she said.
Yes. Thank you. That's where I was going with that.
So,
Setting aside any personal views, the Supreme Court, nobody's going to believe you. You're either liberal or conservative.
which, by their very nature, they're chosen not to be.
Yeah. I'm just glad that we're taking care of the poor people of Ukraine. I didn't realize how important that place was.
It's Putin's Mecca. Like, he wants that mamma jammer bad.
Yeah. Also, 99.5% of Americans couldn't identify it on a map. But gas prices are $5 a gallon here. Let the middle class suffer. Let's go take care of those people with $1 billion of fake money we just printed. Do you see any sea salt on those? I don't see anything.
No.
I'd bring them back to Circle K and be like,
I think they need to call it can't see salt.
It's pretty good.
No, I don't
Kate of
see
you.
salt.
It's very Kate of you.
Kate sent us a very interesting text. So
Nope. Not talking about it out loud. Nope. Veto. We are on YouTube.
I'm not saying that.
I know.
haven't said anything.
I know you haven't.
Interesting text.
Hey, let me just.
Wait a minute, they're going to be gone the next morning.
You want some? You want to try a Rocky Road?
I mean, every time I see it, stuff, I'm like,
Sweet and salty peanut? You should. I'll leave them out there to try because they're awesome. They come from Go Slim Nutrition. And,
live spot on them, so they're good.
yeah. I'll go get you a bar for sure.
I'm gonna do it right now.
In between shows, we'll do a live read at 3.
I can't remember which one I had one from Brittany. It was pretty good, actually. The peanut butter one.
Sweet and salty peanut, probably. I gave Brittany a gang of them.
That was good.
All right, we're now in a tornado watch. Oh, the viewing area. Yay, there's the bridge. I'm going to feel so stupid at 3 o'clock when nothing happens.
You just have to understand that this is a precaution thing. And they're already,
I know we're about to come out of commercial.
Oh, no, I know. But we're already looking at, like...
It's looking like this thing's going to be done by 3 around here anyway.
No, it's going to ramp up at 3.
You think so?
Yeah.
I'll be here a little bit before 3.
.35 at Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, getting you ready for what's to come this afternoon. This is going to be I don't want to say a quick hit of a storm, but that's kind of what we're looking at right now. He's Kevin Ford, Brian Haldane, Chuck P. producing. Kevin, let's just go right back to the hotline because we have WBRZ's chief meteorologist, Dr. Josh Eaches.
Yes,
on,
and we have a very important question for him.
Yes, we do.
Hey, Josh, how are you, buddy?
Doing all right today. How about you guys?
Doing
well.
okay. I guess the big thing right now that people we have a lot to talk about, but timing of this thing. It looked like it was slowing down a little bit. Now I've seen some of the futurecast and radar that kind of have it getting here before 3. What is your best guess right now or estimate of the timing of the severe weather in the Baton Rouge area?
Well, we're going to have spotty cells developing, and they already are. I've already hit a few quick downpours on my way into the office today, and those are the ones we concern ourselves with a potential for rotation However, that main line that is probably the most attention-grabbing you're seeing on radar just over the Atchafalaya Basin right now is slowing a bit, but we're still bringing it into the Baton Rouge area between about 2 and 3 o'clock. And there will likely be a point where it stops and pivots this afternoon and then picks up some speed into the evening hours, crossing I-55 and kind of getting out of the viewing and listening areas closer to sunset this evening. So, Brian said it right before I got on the air with you guys. All things considered, it's not like a hurricane where it's an all day or something like that, but it's a fairly quick hit where it's a couple of hours this afternoon, and really about now until dusk is when we need to be on our heightened weather awareness.
A lot, and you guys have been saying this, and people see the closures, they see all of that, and everybody's been saying that this is not going to be a thing that is going to have widespread power outages, trees down. We're going to see isolated areas, and I think that, a lot of times people are like, oh, they overestimated this. They cried wolf. Nobody's crying wolf. Everybody's saying there's going to be something. It's probably going to be not much, not very large areas, but we can't tell you exactly where that rotation is going to be or those straight line winds are going to be, thus all of the precautions.
It's asking for an answer to a question that there is no answer to. Right now the limitations of meteorology is that we can predict it for a broad region, but not necessarily a point location. So I kind of summed it up on my Facebook page yesterday evening by saying the chances a tornado hits your house tomorrow are very, very, very low. The chances a tornado hits somebody's house within southeast Louisiana and southwest Mississippi are a lot higher than I would like them to be. So just because it doesn't happen to you doesn't mean it was a non-event. Right now, broadly, the ingredients are there for some of these storms to turn severe with damaging wind and tornadoes. And we obviously already saw this event produce over in Texas, and we're getting a little concerned that especially north and east of Baton Rouge, from like the Macomb area over to Hattiesburg and north of that toward Jackson, that corridor that always seems to get pummeled really hard, could see some nasty storm cells starting to develop in the next couple of hours.
WBRC's Chief Meteorologist, Dr. Josh Eaches, is with us for a few more minutes as we're getting ready for this storm system to move through. Josh, you mentioned the tornadoes in Texas. Have we gotten any reports out of Lake Charles or Fort Polk or anything where we've seen tornadoes in Louisiana as well?
So far today, none that I have come across of anything significant. Everything's pretty minor. It looks like the new issue that's cropping up just to our west that might be our biggest concern in Metro Baton Rouge this evening is, as I talked about this line briefly slowing down before pivoting and accelerating back to the east, flash flood warnings now extend from Alexandria south to DeRidder, east across the basin into the Opelousas area and just southwest of Natchez, kind of covering almost all of Acadiana and central Louisiana, and they kind of keep issuing that flash flood warning forward as this line moves to the east. So that slowing down could cause some problems this afternoon. From a flood perspective, we've been so dry that we wouldn't really have any major river concerns. I know that's where everybody's minds go first, but it's going to be 4 or 5 o'clock. Could be some real trouble spots out there, especially in the usual culprits where water tends to sit and stay for a little while.
And Josh, that's exactly the point. If we're not looking at 10 inches of rain, but it's basically for some of these vulnerable areas, rainfall amounts per hour, the average per hour could be extremely high, and maybe it's 2 to 3 inches of rain, but that 2 to 3 inches of rain could fall within an hour, and thus that's where your flood problems come in with a line that's so thin.
Yeah, you have a key word in there. It's not always about rainfall totals. The key words can be rates. If you get an inch in 20 minutes, that's a problem just as much as 3 inches in 2 hours is a problem. It just overwhelms the man-made drainage systems, and that's what's occurring off to our northwest right now in the I-49 corridor. So we're kind of watching all of those ingredients very closely to kind of circle back to the severe threat. Right now, the most favorable low-level winds, upper-level winds, and even instability are kind of starting to lift east and northeast of Baton Rouge. We're still certainly very primed for severe weather, but we're seeing those severe ingredients become a little bit more transient, moving a little bit away from Baton Rouge and switching into what could be a heavy rain and really gusty wind event along this squall line as it comes into our area later on. Do not let your guard down for tornadoes just yet, but that's where I kind of see things starting to play out.
People, when you have situations like this, especially in springtime, when you have these fronts come through and people hear the term straight line winds, and I don't think a lot of people understand that. Could you just, for the layman out there that doesn't really understand straight line winds, which is also a threat, kind of tell them what that is?
Straight line winds, I mean, they can take up a much broader swath. It's typically when you get what's called a downburst or a microburst out of a thunderstorm. It's essentially the cold air aloft in the thunderstorm collapsing down because it comes so dense that it comes racing down to the surface. And think of it like pouring pancake batter onto a griddle. It spreads out in all directions. And oftentimes that can affect a much, much wider area than a tornado. And I think there's a misnomer out there, especially in southeast Louisiana, because we have those kind of aggressive downpour, lightning-laden summer storms that we don't take severe thunderstorm warnings seriously. But just to put it in perspective, an EF0 or EF1 tornado, which would typically have most of us running for cover, can produce 70 or 80 mile per hour winds. Straight line wind events very commonly produce the same wind speeds or even higher. Think to last spring we had that event that took down those high tension lines. That's steel bent sideways on Airline Highway, and that was from a severe thunderstorm, not a tornado. So severe thunderstorm warnings, if issued this afternoon, need to be taken just as seriously as tornado warnings.
And risk for hail in this storm, high, low, what do you think?
I rank it as my number 4 concern behind, damaging wind, tornadoes, and heavy rain. It's not impossible. It is pretty difficult on the Gulf Coast to get hail. Not to say we don't ever get it. We get quite often we get some pea and marble-sized hail, but it needs to be 1 inch in diameter to be considered severe, and that's when you're getting closer to ping pong ball size, and it's really difficult to get cold air low enough in the atmosphere for that to happen here. So I don't want to say that's a zero threat, but that's my 4th priority.
WBRZ's Chief Meteorologist, Dr. Josh Eaches. Just a couple more, and I greatly appreciate your time this afternoon. Even though you're talking about pancakes during lunch hour, that's not
that was the wrong thing to say.
Like all three of us were triggered immediately, Josh.
We lost our producer, so you're on for the rest of the time. As soon as Chuck P heard pancakes, he was going straight to IHOP.
First and foremost, the first one, another one for you is you and I talked this morning about how dry it's been thus far, and I think that kind of reiterates where the difference between quick hit rain versus long-term sustained rain. For the lunchtime audience, where are we at as far as our patterns right now? We've basically been in a drought.
We have been in a drought, and the deficit is, depending on where you are in the viewing area, between about 4 and 6 inches on the year thus far. And we think of that in terms of the rivers and the runoff we can handle and the cumulative effect and things like that. So that's why there's really minimal concern for any river flooding in this event, but that is a different beast than flash flooding or aerial flooding, as we call it. We may get a few advisories this afternoon. The catch basins are great, but they're only so big. They can only handle so much water at once. So once the water gets into them, they're going to find their way to the streams and rivers and run off downstream without an issue in this event. But sometimes, when you fill your bathtub up, it doesn't drain, and it'll go down that drain at once. It takes some time for it to drain. So those catch basins could be overwhelmed for a short time today if these storms kind of park and slow down over us.
Josh, one of the questions that one of the obvious questions that we're all talking about what could happen, but kind of an interesting question here. We have fronts that come through. We get this, you get these high dew points, and you get the atmosphere that's really kind of prone to develop severe weather. What is it about this significant event that has been really making people more cautious and getting their guard up, especially in the weather community? What specifically about this front has got everybody worried and not so much as some of the other ones that come through and we'll see later? What are all the events putting together to make this one look dangerous?
It's all about what's happening over our heads. We can all easily perceive the warmth and the humidity, a little bit more humid today than it would be typically for March. Temperatures in the 80s, slightly above average. But if warmth and humidity was all that we needed for severe weather, we'd be worried just about every summer day. But it has to do with what's happening aloft and in the atmosphere. And the wind speeds at what we look at 4 or 5 different levels in the atmosphere are much, much faster than they normally would be. And when we get them moving at high speeds and especially changing direction with height in the atmosphere, that gives that kind of rotational component to the thunderstorms as they grow into the atmosphere, allows them to start spinning and possibly produce tornadoes. So that's why I think many people don't kind of realize what goes into a severe weather forecast. Is front's coming, change from warm to cold. That means there could be severe weather. No, sometimes we can get a front coming by and there's just simply not much happening over our heads and they just pass by with some showers and storms. But in this particular event, we have some pretty wildly fast and changing direction winds over our heads, which kind of has us sounding the alarms for the potential for severe weather in this particular event. And that's why each one's made up a little bit differently. I have a checklist of any number of, looking at it and counting them, about 10 or 12 parameters I look at before every event, and that is a small amount compared to the work that's done going into the severe weather forecasting and the Storm Prediction Center. And unless I see 10 or 11 of those checked off, I'm not going to be too worried. But just about all of them are checked off for this event. Doesn't mean they're going to produce, but the ingredients are there.
We're in springtime. This is tornado season. When you get into Mississippi, you get into the Midwest. We all saw what happened in Tuscaloosa a few years ago. Tornadoes that can go 50, 60 miles. I know in Kentucky, I believe, they had that happen. Tennessee, you see it. What is it about Louisiana when we see tornadoes, we don't see those long-lasting tornadoes, and we usually don't see the F4, F5s. What is it about our state that our tornadoes seem to be short-lived for the most part, whereas you can get 200-300 miles from here, and it's a whole different story?
There could be one of many answers to that. That's an ongoing bit of research. But one of the things that we most commonly see as a culprit, especially early in the spring season, February, March, getting into early April, is the same thing that drives our weather in the summer, and that's the Gulf of Mexico. Water warms and cools more slowly than land does. So right now, on a warm day, the Gulf of Mexico is still cooler than our air temperature. And one of the main ingredients you need for severe weather is that strong south or southeasterly wind. And we see that stretching all the way into Mississippi, Alabama, like we did earlier this year in Tennessee and Kentucky. But while that same southerly wind exists over Louisiana, it is putting a shallow layer of cooler air at the surface. Now, eventually, that obviously kind of wears off the farther inland you get. But in a time like this, we can sometimes see this cooler, more stable layer of air caused by the Gulf of Mexico drift X number of miles inland, a lot of times up to kind of the state line with Mississippi, and that provides that stable layer that stops storms from becoming rooted at the surface, which is what you need for tornadoes. You can still produce damaging wind gusts, you can still get a brief weak spin up, but those long-track tornadoes really need a fully unstable air mass from the ground all the way up to the top of the atmosphere.
I know you have a question, but Josh, I have one question for you that's totally off the subject, and I learned this earlier. Did you know that cashews aren't nuts? Did you think that everybody here thought cashews were nuts?
I thought they were nuts.
It's the last fun fact I expected to pick up today.
Well, trust me, you hang around here a long time. You're on with us. There's a lot of stuff that you're going to get. That's great info, Brian.
No,
I mean, not about the nuts, the weather he just talked about.
Absolutely. Everything Josh had to say was great, but blowing it out with the cashews.
Josh had no idea that cashews were not nuts.
Well, the man knows. He knows his weather. He doesn't know his cashew.
I guarantee you he's going to Google it when he gets off, and he's going to tell 2 or 3 people at WBRC, hey, did you know cashews weren't nuts?
Mm-hmm.
I am not a legume specialist.
They are.
Very good.
Very nice.
I'm impressed.
He's going to bring that over to Nakamoto, and then we're going to get to the bottom of it. That's how that's going to roll. We got to take a break. Wait, you know what? One more before I get you out of here. We're not out of the woods yet, but can you give us an approximate time when we can exhale within Baton Rouge as far as this storm's concerned?
I really think to be closer to sunset tonight, maybe an hour before that. Internally, we've been talking with news management, things like that. I think that perhaps by the 6 o'clock broadcast this evening, we might be able to start clearing some folks in our viewing area, and I would say east of I-55 around sunset.
He is WBRZ's chief meteorologist, Dr. Josh Eachus. Josh, we always appreciate the time, sir.
Okay, have a good afternoon, guys. Stay safe.
You
too.
too.
Appreciate it.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, let's do a little bit of traffic because it is getting like as was said on YouTube earlier, it's stupid out there.
All right, and then the full sea salt roasted cashews review from Circle K. And let me tell you something. I'm not going to hold back on this one.
Oh, goodness gracious. It's all coming your way next.
2 minutes, so this is a short one.
What's our out time?
58:50.
Okay.
Chuck, the calming influence you have over there is, I just, it's hard for me to.
At a time like this, it's very important, Kevin. We all need to keep our composure.
I mean, Taylor is a good protege for me, but
he's way too frenetic. No. He's the two of you in the same room together. That is like that is high blood pressure session right there. Yeah. No. I'm with you. When I left the house at 4:15 this morning, it was 71 degrees outside. Yeah. When I leave the house tomorrow morning, it's going to be like 50.
Perfect. Can we flip that? I want that for the high.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
I'm down with seasonably appropriate cold. That season is over.
Kevin, when are you gonna take me charter fishing? Or just fishing in general?
Chuck, we can go whenever you want.
All right.
Let's get in touch with Gordy and put it on his credit card, just
Hey,
like the Underhills.
We were at the Outdoor Expo on Saturday. I didn't.
You saw all the 5 people. I was there Friday.
So Saturday was jam packed, dude.
Yes.
It was way over the top. Now we were right
There were
across.
no vendors.
Do what
There were no vendors there.
on Friday?
Yeah. No, period. There's no vendors. There was like 20% of the vendors. Yeah, you were right across from front to back boat service.
Yes, and they kept and they do.
Blasting.
So they do a great job overall. Like everything they do over there is
Some
fantastic.
of that rock and roll rubbish got.
Okay, no, that's where I'm going though. If you're fishing and you're blasting music, do you scare the fish?
You could, yeah.
Okay.
But this is like going back and forth.
Yeah. Bringing it back to the studios for one more segment before we hand off to Dave Ramsey, who takes better care of your money than we're taking care of you in a storm. That's coming your way from 1 to 3. We're going to pick it back up at about 3 o'clock as the rain should be here by then. He's Kevin Ford. I'm Brian Haldane. Kevin, we're going to have to put the cashew review on pause for just a minute because the whole reason we're on right now is because everybody got out of work. So we need to take a look at yeah, well, it is accumulated greatly.
Yeah, and real quick, for the people just joining us, this is not going to be widespread destruction. It's going to be, when this storm system moves through, it's going to be isolated areas that are going to see some damaging winds, possible F1, F2 tornadoes. But, folks, this is not going to be something that's going to, just take over Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas.
Okay, what we're looking at right now is I-10 eastbound coming into town across the Mississippi River Bridge, the Horace Wilkinson Bridge. We are looking at stop-and-go traffic, more stop than go, not just from the bridge, but all the way up to the University Lakes. Then it's slow going until it picks up. Goodness gracious, it's slow going all the way through College Drive before it picks up again heading into the 10-12 split. On I-10 westbound, if you're heading to West Baton Rouge, you are going to see some delays on the way out of town. Not nearly that bad, though. Also, while we're looking at it, there are surface street slowdowns basically everywhere. Highland Road in between, Stanford and Lee is stop and go. Looks like Burbank is going to be stop and go through about that same stretch. I know you don't have the same intersections there, but we're seeing a lot of red on the Google Maps as a result of that. Airline Highway is going to be slow going. Airline southbound heading up towards Old Hammond Highway. So if you're heading southbound on Airline, as you get to Goodwood, you can expect to hit the brakes a whole lot before you get to Airline. Might want to think about hopping off and taking a different route. I'm not advising people to get over to Sharp and then back up to Old Hammond and then back around. Oh, I dropped a pin in that. Whoops. But it would get you there quicker, to be sure.
I actually used to live off of Florida and Sharp.
You did?
Yeah.
So did I. Those apartments just north of Florida on Sharp.
Yeah, by the old folks' home over there where they drag the dead body out about once every 3 hours.
Yeah, but just north of that. I was the next one up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
That was a really long year.
It was.
Oh man, it's a lot of sirens.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't want to live there anymore after I lived there for a little while. Back to the traffic real quick, though. We are looking at an accident. Where is this at? Is this on? This is on O'Neill. We've got an accident O'Neill southbound right now. In fact, this one was just updated. The accident is, it's coming up on South Harrell's Ferry. It's before South Harrell's Ferry. If you're on O'Neill approaching South Harrell's Ferry, you will see the accident there, and it's causing a lot of delays backing up towards the interstate. So that's about as comprehensive as you're going to get traffic-wise. Basically, be patient out there. Everybody got out. A lot of people got out of work at noon. A lot of people got out of school at noon. A lot of office buildings closed down at noon, and you're just sitting through it at this point.
And everybody should, when this thing moves through, it's only going to be a couple of hours, maybe not that long, but make sure that everybody's got radar on their phones and everything. Make sure you are home or not on the roads. You don't want to be on the roads for this thing. So just make sure you're home or at work or wherever you are, and pay attention in case there is a tornado warning, severe thunderstorm warning, or something like that, because we are going to have some of that in and around the area. So just find a place to park yourself. I would say around 2:15, about an hour and 15 minutes from now. Just be where you need to be. And by this evening and tonight, if you want to go out to eat pancakes like Chuck P. will, you'll be perfectly safe to go without an umbrella.
Also got an accident at Segan at Julia Oban, and another accident on O'Neill. This is north of the interstate. I don't see the street name, the side street name, but it's basically in between the racetrack and the interstate.
Okay, yeah, that's yeah. So it's right off the interstate.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
So sea salt roasted cashews.
All right, sea salt roasted cashews. I stopped on the way over here knowing that y'all wouldn't have any damn food. So the sea salt roasted cashews, there's no sea salt. So don't tell me that these are sea salt roasted. Tell me they're light sea salt roasted, but if you go to Circle K and get these for a snack, for anything, I would tell you you're going to be highly disappointed if you are looking for the sea salt. It's just like when you used to eat Raisin Bran as a kid and you couldn't find the damn raisins. Well,
Who
I
ate
can't
Raisin
find
Bran as a kid?
Well, I mean,
Did
if
your parents hate you as a child? Like,
well, I
don't
mean,
understand.
sometimes they had to
Get
flush out
yourself
your
some
system.
cinnamon toast. Oh, that's true too.
Yeah,
That's true too.
I mean, it's like eating Drano. It'll clean you out, but leave you empty feeling inside.
That's exactly right. Wow. So he's Kevin Ford. We'll be doing this again a couple hours from right now.
I'm sure people are thrilled.
We're going to pick back up at 3 o'clock. Probably without the sea salt or no sea salt.
We'll have another snack.
Will we?
Go to the basement. The snack machine in the basement is stacked with food.
I guess so. This is the same damn stuff they've had in there since the Reagan administration.
What? This used to be the Baton Rouge General Hospital, and that's when they filled the snack machine.
Yeah.
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 So.
Come on, Chuck P.
Just microwave it for 30 seconds. It's fine.
Oh, good Lord.
All right.
Once again, resetting. This is going to be a hyper-local situation when it comes to actual damage. If you're expecting widespread damage like you would in a hurricane, if you're expecting widespread power outages like you would in a hurricane, you are not going to get it. And by all means, please, take a sigh of relief if that's how it plays out.
Yes, but there will be some people out there that are really mad that their house didn't get blown out.
No, I know.
So they can blame they overreacted. No, everybody's told you that this is going to be isolated and not widespread. So I don't know what Jim Cantori and all those clowns are saying on the Weather Channel, but I'm sure they've got everybody scared to death and packing up and heading to, I don't know, somewhere. But with a mask on, trust me, they're going to be wearing a damn mask.
So I saw Ginger Z from Good Morning America, who I had on the show not long ago, by the way. She's in Brandon, Mississippi.
Okay, that's a great place to be. I've never heard of.
Me neither.
I've never even.
I didn't know there was a thing called Brandon.
Oh no, I know Brandon. I'm just talking about the lady you're talking about. I couldn't pick her out of a crowd of two. I've never heard of her.
Oh, goodness gracious. All right, well, she's Good Morning America's meteorologist.
God bless her.
Yeah. We got to get out of here. I will tell you this though. I've been perusing news sites out of Lake Charles looking for damage, and if there's any reassuring fact right here, it's that so far the news outlets in Lake Charles are not reporting any. So. We'll pick it back up at 3 o'clock. Right now, let's get you to CBS News and then the Dave Ramsey Show. Bro, that was off by a second and a half. That fire off automatically, right? Yeah. Oh, so YouTube will be back at 3 o'clock.
Yeah, YouTube will be back at 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
If you want a food review, we're on Government Street, right next to where they bring the dead people. Just drop off a bag in the front door, and we'll do it.
You can drop off a bag at the front door next door, too, but it's a different bag altogether.
Fair.
Yeah, I mean, no, food.
Yeah. Yeah.